For Ferris Cartoony, 183, and sets a blistering new track record. The final Saturday session for GRIDLIFE Mid-Summer Meet for GRIDLIFE Track Battle is about to kick off from Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio. Kyle Heyer alongside Greg Kramer for our last track battle session of the weekend on the live stream. There is some more tomorrow, so we can't bring you the podium winners quite yet at the end of this session. We'll have to wait until tomorrow to announce that on GRIDLIFE social media. But Greg, it's been a fun weekend in track battle. A lot of records have fallen, but one that has not is the unlimited record.
Yeah, Ferris has gotten, within a couple seconds of it, but there's more to come, I think. And he had a really good run of one, but the record's a 121.7, and he was in the low 23s. So it's conceivable here. Honestly, in that session, the last time he was out, I never really saw him that it looked like right on the edge, really pushing. Now, he may have been trying those new Michelin tires and may have not really liked the feel of them or something. So this is going to be sort of telltale to see what he could put together here. We certainly know he's capable. The car's capable. Yeah,
it certainly is capable. We did see him go back out, and again, I don't think the conditions are better now. I think it's pretty hot right now around the racetrack, and the track temp, again, getting soaked in sunlight all afternoon. It's picked up a lot of temperature, and hot track means a slick track. I mean, a dry and cool track also means a slick track here at Mid-Ohio, but relatively grippier than what we've got right now. So I don't think Ferris is going to go quicker unless he really dials in a lap, but it's possible. He ran that fast last year. There's no reason why he couldn't do it again.
Well, absolutely. And the thing is, this track is sensitive to heat and weather changes. And we had a couple of moments where we had some cloud cover move in. It really cooled things down. But I think, last year Ferris ran one of his very fastest laps here when it was pretty warm in the afternoon. So he could certainly get it done, and we're looking forward to seeing that happen. And while we're waiting for that all to key up, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of the corner workers, the corner marshals here. This is a long weekend for them. They've been out in this weather. We had torrential deluge level rain yesterday for a little bit, and now we've had heat, we've had humidity, and they're out there in it, in harm's way. And all of the volunteers that make an event like this happen, they are legion, and you just don't have the ability to put on a race like this without them.
Certainly, corner workers, track staff, and also the GRIDLIFE volunteer staff as well, including our tech team and then the stream team as well. They've been putting on such a show for us here this weekend. We just get to talk about it and look at it and oogle over how awesome it is. But again, this is a huge effort that is much bigger than I think a lot of people realize, and there's a lot more expense and time involved than most people realize. They've done such a great job, so thanks to the entire team, the drone pilots, the camera ops, all the guys in the trailer making and cutting the stream into pieces and making it look great and putting the overlays on it and working hard through late nights and early mornings to make it happen. Big thanks to them. We're not done yet, though. If you just joined us, Track Battle Group A coming up here shortly. Group B, Group C, and then GRIDLIFE Touring Cup Race 4 is our last event on the live stream. There's Mike Cohn standing on grid, one of our ops guys, and our pace car driver for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, standing and waiting to turn everybody loose for Group A here shortly.
And this is their last opportunity today, but it's also their last opportunity on the live stream to really do something spectacular. And where I'm talking about a fast lap, not the other type of spectacular, which we don't really care about too much. But this is it here, and we're looking forward to it. And then that Touring Cup race at the end of the day, the fourth of four. And, not to jinx anything, but the three we've had thus far have been superb.
Yeah, we had a couple messy weekends earlier in the year, and messy in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup terms means it's clean for most other series in North America. So. But this has been a spectacular weekend of racing, and it really has been a positive vibe throughout the paddock. There was lots of hugging and fist bumping and all sorts of cool stuff like that. People driving through on golf carts, hey, that was a great race.
Exactly.
That's what you see in GLTC, in the paddock here, and in track battle as well. I know the competition is fierce, but generally very, very friendly as well.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that this paddock is such a wonderful place. It's hard racing, but it is loaded with respect and concern for your competitor, because that competitor has probably become a good friend. And, I mean, just during the break we're wandering around the paddock, and there was nobody really sitting by themselves. Either their paddock was empty, and they were over with 5 other guys over here, or their paddock was jammed because they're talking, they're working, they're coming up with ideas, sharing things. There's a reason that they've come up with an apparel line that just says Paddock Vibes.
Exactly.
Because it's a great vibe here.
It really is. And despite the hot weather, this is really the second event in a row, maybe third event in a row. Autobahn was pretty hot, too, that we've had some pretty toasty weather. NJMP was just blistering hot. I wasn't there for that one, but I've heard that it was pretty toasty. So, again, everyone, despite the temperature, is in pretty good spirits here at the tail end of a Saturday. Cars warming up. I didn't see the 2008 Corvette with the driver from Dallas, so it looks like it'll be Jimmy Rauch leading the way for this one. Didn't see James Houghton. Oh, there that car is. I think it's in line in the backdrop. There it is. No, that's Kendall Samuel in line, I believe. Okay. Yes, that's the 197 of Kendall Samuel. Different livery on that car. It used to be kind of a dark purple-y color, I think. Now it's got some yellow and black on it, but warming themselves up and getting prepped for some laps. We've got Jimmy Rauch out there. Didn't see Dallas Reed. Eric Dewey DeWitt is out on track, so is Grant Walker. Kendall Samuel we saw. Alex Moss we saw in ASM Super K. And Alex Moss, by the way, in Street Mod, we haven't really focused a lot on him this weekend, but he is fast. He's up there and running, I think, right now second in Street Mod. A car we should be following very, very closely.
Yeah, 1:31.2, a really good time. Just about a second off of Eric DeWitt's, Dewey DeWitt's. So Alex is there. When I briefly chatted with him earlier, he really wasn't in the mood to talk because he said, we're not fast enough, and he had wrenches and everything, and he was like, I said, I get it, go go work. So he's not giving up on it. He's still going to be coming after it here.
There is Jimmy Rauch's GT2 RS heading up towards the keyhole. That Porsche platform, let me tell you something, Greg. The engineers a long time ago decided to put the engine behind the rear axle, despite every engineering textbook on planet Earth about center of gravity and that sort of thing. Well, a couple decades later, Porsche has really put on a show in basically every racing series across the world and proven that the 911 is one of the best track and competition cars ever built. The GT2 RS is the apex of that.
I think in the dictionary under the word venerable, they should just have a picture of a Porsche 911 because it has been. I mean, that you think about that original bathtub, the old 356. I mean, other than just improving it and improving it and improving it, that's what it's been ever since. And it has its little quirks in terms of learning to drive it. They've continued to work on that rear suspension to make it feel more and more, like a mid-engine car, but you still have that big lump of mass back there. But the drivers that figure out how to drive it, the cars are just, one, they're bulletproof, and two, they're just fast.
They are fast.
Really quick.
And even in the GT3 category, the rear engine layout remains. I know at their GT endurance level, they had shifted the engine forward to a mid-engine, but they've committed to the rear engine in the GT3 platform for the next generation car as well. So that new GT3R was just announced a couple of weeks ago, will be in professional competition next year. But the cool thing about Porsche is that the street Porsches and the race car Porsches, they're not really all that different. I mean,
exactly.
They're really they're probably the closest thing you can get to having an IMSA car in your garage.
Well, they're a GT3 Cup car. Basically, once the frame and everything's built for the regular road car, they just pull that off of the production line and then send it to the line where they put on all the safety and racy bits. So it's very much still derived from the street platform. Yes, the GT Le Mans car or the GTE car, as they call it in the World Endurance Championship, they just had to do a little change there. And you think about when Porsche moves the engine forward just in that category, and when Corvette comes out with a mid-engine car, that tells you that they absolutely had to do it. But now those classes are kind of going away, so that back to that normal layout is going to be good. And the thing is, they're turnkey, and they're just you just start them up, you run, they don't fail, and they're fast, so they can be slotted into a class, and you've got yourself a car.
Whoa, look at Alex Moss right to the edge of the road and spins in turn 9. Try to get a little too much.
Yep. Just dropped those left sides.
Ooh, watch the gravel here, Alex. It's graded well enough. He should be able to drive over it, and he does.
Nice.
We were just about to mention that he was out for a hot lap trying to break the street mod record, but is trying to just get safely back on track at this stage, and we'll roll down the hill now. That car, there's more to it than meets the eye. It's got a new engine in it from last time out. They've swapped something else into this. I believe it's they went back to a K20 or it's a new K24. But they found this engine in the ASM shop, and I think it had a green valve cover, so it all worked out. But they popped this in, and it's got some new go fast bits on it here this weekend. And it also has a BMW dual clutch transmission in it.
Oh, okay.
So it's paddle shift, which is extremely unique for an S2000, obviously, all coming in manual transmissions. Here's Grant Walker up to second overall at a 1:30.576. And in terms of his overall speed this weekend, it's a little bit slower, but he's still out there trying to go quicker. Again, I think the conditions are hotter and slicker, but look at the backside, all covered in shade at this stage.
Yeah, if that comes over the track and it just cools things a little bit, anybody that's ready for a quick lap could seriously benefit from that. And since Alex originally hails from the UK, I think we can safely say that he was giving it a bit of welly over there through turn 7, 8, 9.
Here's Puglisi running third right now overall and in track modified, a 1:32.47. Puglisi's best time is a 1:31.731. So as it stands, he's actually gone quicker this session for Puglisi. Is that right? Oh, no, he went a 1:30 point. Is that right? No, he has gone faster by about a half a second.
Okay.
So Puglisi's up a little bit, about a half a second on his previous best time. Across the line that time through, no pickup that lap. But Dewey bested by, how about Michael Omick in Street Mod, a 1:32.023. And for Omick, that is quicker than Dewey. Dewey's best time of the weekend is a 30.1. And so that's slower, but Michael Omick really throwing his hat in the ring with his Subaru WRX.
You know, it's going to be difficult, isn't it, for these track mod rear-wheel drive cars to usurp that track record, because Ferris had that with that monster car and it was totally legal. He changed the bits that needed to be changed and went out and owned that. But everybody right now, a good 5 seconds off of that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not fierce competition to win the weekend. And these guys are going after it, as they always do, with a lot of intensity.
Here's Grant Walker again with the flip-up headlights in the braking zones, which I just think is the most genius thing ever.
Yep.
I didn't get a chance to ask him what it was, and I didn't see anybody that was able to tell me if that was something that he's had for a while. I just don't recall. I've seen this car before. I do not recall it doing this before.
Nor I. So... But it certainly seems like every time he comes off throttle, they go up, and every time he gets to a point of the track where you start to pick the throttle up, down they go.
Yep, right there, back on throttle. Yeah. It's just genius engineering. And that car is an engineering project, as many cars in this category, track mod and up, are. You know, it's interesting. This car is a track mod car, which, is one step below Unlimited. You look at Nick Gardner's GT500 Mustang, that's... it's not stock, but it's not as modified as this. And yet
not at all,
Gardner's car is Unlimited just because it's one of those factory, crazy, insane muscle cars that makes, ridiculous amounts of horsepower.
And there's a class here for it.
Yeah. And, the other thing is the tire selection, right? If you run on Hoosiers, you run on any kind of slick tire, it's going to put you immediately into Unlimited. And there's Nick Gardner. Speaking of the devil, there he is. Wow. One car just went by that sounded amazing. I didn't hear who it was.
It sounded sort of cartoony-ish, didn't it?
Sounded Corvette-ish.
Yeah.
At the very least. But it looks like Gardner's off pace right now. Just ran a 31.155, which is a little slower, about 0.2 off of his best, but knocking on the door of an improvement. And whoever else just went by could have been Cody Hunt or Steve Luca potentially in that Street GT Mustang. But down the backstretch we go. But I think that's Grant Walker again we're picking back up. And into the braking zone, into turn 4. Again, high speed, high braking. Oh, no, this is somebody else entirely. This is Bronson McNeamer, I believe, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Bronson.
That's that Mazda that I was talking about.
Yeah.
The injector stacks coming out of the hood. Massive rear wing on that thing.
Got a little tail happy despite the rear wing at the exit of 5. And accelerates down towards turn 9. Little bobble there. I wonder if that patch is getting greasy.
That could be.
And that's why we've seen people make that mistake. And that's I think one of the trickiest spots on this racetrack from my experience around here in the sim. You're coming up over a blind crest, and you're kind of letting the momentum and the inertia of the car carry you out to the edge of the road to your turn-in point for the next corner.
Right.
And there's a very fine line between underdriving it and stepping up onto the curb, which you'll slip and end up in the grass. And once you hit the grass with the left side loaded up, it's game over. So I think that's one of the trickiest parts of this racetrack. The other, turn one, underrated challenge here.
Oh, huge, huge. Again, it's so fast. And you just sort of turn in with a commitment because you don't see the exit, and you just got to keep your boot in it here. But I think you're right. That section of track, that's where you pointed out there are some of those pavement changes, and as you scoot over that, if it's a dark pavement, it tends to retain heat, and the oils will cook up a little bit in it as a result, and so it's a little slippery. And I have noticed today some drivers are not worrying about getting to the apex there. They're keeping those loaded left side tires just off of that patch.
Yeah, find the grip where you can find it. It's almost like driving a track in the wet, but it's dry.
Yeah.
Just looking and going a little bit offline to find where the grip is. And even a lot of tracks, like on the NASCAR schedule, ovals like Atlanta Motor Speedway prior to the repave, they would get worn down in certain places, and that's when you'd see drivers experiment with different lines moving up the racetrack to find try to find some grip elsewhere, away from where the normal line typically is, and then ends up kind of evening the track out over time. But really interesting dynamic here. There's Jimmy Rauch, a 129.809. And for Rauch, about 0.6 off still, but maybe going for another flyer here. Up towards the keyhole for the 991 numbered Porsche. And on the brakes, getting a little slow here through keyhole. See if he fires back up or if it's a cool down for him. Looks like the latter. Looks like he is cooling down. We'll see if we can jump to anybody else on a quick lap. I think McNeamer just came across the line again, perhaps. His best is a 33.816. And Bronson's best time on the weekend is a 33.579. So
and I'm
not
just
quite quicker.
Trying to clarify something. I think that right now Chris Boersma is in the 10th spot.
Yep.
He's got a 32.6 right now, which, if I'm reading this right, way underneath the track record. But the previous session, he went a 131.9.
Wow, okay.
So, so he owns that track record now by a bunch.
And Chris Boersma is another one of our fellows from Canada that wasn't able to join us for a bunch of time because of the global pandemic, and so glad to have him back in our paddock in the number 33, the K-tuned Honda Civic. That car has always been insane. I first saw that, I think I might have saw it at Midwest in 2019, but I definitely saw it at GRIDLIFE South, our festival at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta, that same year in August. That was 4 years ago, believe it or not.
That must have. That's quite the track. That must have been a crazy weekend of.
It was. It's a great
speed,
great time attack track.
Yeah. Oh, and wicked quick. Absolutely. Let's
have a look at our results here. Checkered flag out for Group A, and top of the board in this one, again, is Jimmy Rauch in the 991 Porsche, 29.809. How about Grant Walker with that very clever Mazda Miata, or what's left of it, at a 130.088. Nicholas Gardner, third, and good lap for him on Unlimited. That wasn't quite his best this weekend, though, and there's the rest of your running order. Ben Lynn, how about that for a 133.418 for Ben Lynn in street class? That's got to be pretty quick. Oh, he went quicker earlier, 32. He's been in the 32s, yep.
So,
either way, still a solid lap, despite.
Very solid. And I think that points out to the temperature difference, because, Boersma that we were just talking about with that 131.9 in this session, he's in a mid 132. I think that's just temperature right now. It's warm, track's a little more slick.
Certainly. So Group B will be up next here shortly once all the cars clear the road. Then we'll have Group C, a very short break before our GLTC Race 4 of the weekend with a 9-car invert, so we'll get to that a little bit later in the day. But Greg, Group B is up next, and we're going to get to see our Falcon Club TR battle in that one. And it's been Grant Davidson, Ben Thorne, and Dana Basinski all weekend. Evan Weeder is right in the mix as well. I talked to Dana a little bit after the previous session. He was disappointed. Straightaway speed is his big problem here. Despite him having K-swapped that BRZ, still struggling with power. I think it makes like 217 or something with that K-swap on it. The stock engine wheel horsepower makes like 160, so there's the gain. But the challenge is that he's racing cars that have a little bit more power and a little bit more straight line speed. So he was saying he's got his tongue hanging out, trying to get everything he could get.
Exactly.
It worked for him at Autobahn Country Club. He was fastest there, slipping and sliding around. But this track is not playing into the strengths of his car, but he's going to unhook that rear bar and give it a real big send here in this session. We'll see if he can get on top in Club TR.
Well, he is always fun to watch, so that'll be an absolute joy to watch for sure. And but everybody's fighting this current heat condition. It's warm, and it's also the humidity's back a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that does two things. One, obviously, if the track starts to get a little slick, you just have general grip issues. But when it gets warm and humid, it's tougher to dissipate heat.
Right.
And so if a car is designed, that, okay, we know it's going to run really warm, but we only need it because we're going to do it for 2 laps. Well, now it may become more problematic for you. And at a certain point, it gets too warm, you start to lose power.
Certainly. And again, this Club TR battle has been amazing all season long and all last year. This class, again, is a native class that was constructed by GridLife to basically give cars with smaller motors a chance in a time attack class that didn't have to resort to crazy turbos or huge displacement. This is for engines that are under 2 liters. So you're going to see cars that have smaller engines in them. You can do engine swaps. You can change the platform, the engine platform that you're on. You can do lots of aero parts and pieces, but you can't do a ton to the interior. You can't do a lot in terms of opening up the engine. You have to leave the engine pretty much where it's at. So, it's one of those interesting classes. It's a builder's class, but it's for builders that don't want to build, a $200,000, 1,200 horsepower Corvette.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, everybody has their own designs. One, affected by funding, and the other just affected by what do I want to do?
Right. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't want to be in a Corvette. Maybe I don't want to be in an all-wheel drive car. Maybe I want a rear-wheel drive coupe, or I want to, or maybe I want to drive my grocery getter and jump into a Sunday Cup and compete at a very high level in a very slow class. But, I mean, slow in pace, but
right.
Certainly not in terms of driver ability and overall lap time. Those cars are going very, very quick for what they are.
And I will guarantee you that the drivers getting out of those cars have the biggest grins because they're just fun to run. But you were talking about that Club TR. Davison, fastest lap in that previous session was a 35.57. Ben Thorne, 35.69. Evan Weeder, 35.96. That's close.
It is.
They are really, really getting after it here. And Baczynski, because of that power model, he's not that far off. It's a 36.3, so it's only 0.4 off Weeder. But that's how close it is in this category.
It'll take one big send and a little bit of luck for Dana to get that done. And working with some new additions to the front end of his car as well. And you have to wonder, Greg, what's your opinion on adding a splitter if you're down on horsepower? Do you think a splitter affects your straight line speed at the top end at all, or enough to be a factor on a relatively lightweight car, or do you think that's worth the game?
I don't think the splitter is going to hurt you. Splitter doesn't really generate too much drag. It's more to just prevent lift. It wants, the splitter's there to keep air from getting underneath the car. But I don't think that would be too much. The dragginess is when, you're getting air over wings or tabs or whatever. Like the old adage, when you're going down the road and you stick your hand out the window and you have it flat, you don't feel it, you tilt it. It's kind of that type of deal. A splitter is more to do exactly what the name implies. It separates the air, tries to eliminate the air underneath the car, so that if you're running a diffuser at the back, that diffuser speeds the air that is there up, creates that little low pressure area, and gives you a little better grip. But it really doesn't generate a lot of downforce, and that's where you tend to get the drag. So I don't think a splitter is going to hurt it much. That's for sure. Now, if you're dealing with, and I'll be honest, I don't remember off the top of my head what kind of wing he's got on that car. If he's down on that power or on the power curve a little bit, just maybe trim that wing out.
Certainly could play with the aero.
Sure.
How about Tony Barber, by the way, in the number 333? He's in a Tesla Model 3. Let's talk about the way things are going, Greg, because the world is changing, and the internal combustion engine is being phased out, as Barber goes for a bit of a ride at the exit at turn 1, in favor of electrification, because electrification has a lot of advantages, including instant torque and lots and lots and lots of power. The challenges that electric cars face right now is weight.
Yes.
Now, the Tesla Model 3 that Tony Barber is driving has gone faster than a GLTC car. He has no aero on this car, and he's not on racing slicks. He's gone faster than a GLTC car in a 4,000-pound electric car. This shows the capabilities of what is coming out of factories now in electrified manufacturers and brands. There is a future to motorsport that doesn't involve the sounds that we hear, as much as I'd like not to admit it. But I think Tony Barber and PhD Racing and guys like Drew Cleaver, they have shown that Tesla and any other electric vehicles, they really do have a place. Now, there is something to be said about maybe they're not driver's vehicles in the same sense where they're back to basics and communicative and that sort of thing. I've heard them, driving like a video game, that sort of thing. But they are really impressive as performance vehicles across the board, despite their large weight that they're kind of lugging around.
Yeah, absolutely, and that weight is primarily battery, obviously, and so you've got to have it. But to me, they're great, but the other issue is longevity of a charge, and that's where, to me, the idea of the Chevy Volt is a really good one, where you have a very small internal combustion engine, so that if you run low on a charge, you fire that engine up, and it just charges the battery and keeps you running.
It's almost like the concept, and Sean back at the GridLife office is going to laugh at me for saying this. We do have a car off. It's one of our Subarus. Is that Mike Coons, potentially? Mike Coon? I don't know. We'll have to get a look at that again in a second. But it's kind of like a diesel-electric locomotive in the sense that there's a gas-powered engine generating electricity. I like that model as well. But, again, there's a future for motorsport that doesn't involve ICE, and that's okay.
It is okay. And I'll tell you, I recently did announce a motorcycle race out in Minnesota, out in Monterey, and they have a class there called Super Hooligan, which is like a catch-all, where there's a category for almost any kind of a bike, non-fairing bikes, right? And I don't remember the name of the bike, but it was an all-electric motorcycle, and it qualified 5th.
Right.
Now, as the race unfolded and the charge drained, it started to fall back a little bit, but they were there as an exercise to prove speed and work on it. So 2 wheels, 4 wheels, whatever it is, there's a future for it. No question about it.
Just got to look at Tegan Thostenson in the 21, the Radhangs Racing car. The car that did go off, that was Mike Coons in the 310 Subaru. So that was, again, turn 9. So that's our 3rd time we've seen someone have a big moment over there. And I'm curious now in the GLTC race how much that'll affect those competitors as well when they're 3 or 4 wide and you even can't choose their line.
Yeah,
so that'll be a challenge. But here's another look at that 21 car, the Radhangs Racing Subaru, through turn 4 and 5. And Tegan up over the crest, down the hill, competing in the street class in a Subaru. Alex Artea just went top of the board in Street GT, but I think he's been there most of the weekend. But love the livery on this car. The purple and white and blue looks good together.
It does, doesn't it? It really works.
All-wheel drive, gripping the road on corner exit, and just nicely planted.
Tegan Thostenson.
Thostenson, yep. And the 62 of Blaine just jumped straight to the top. Brian Blaine in his Mazda RX-7 and track modified, a 133.996. Not bad at all, I'd say. Dalton Klein making his return out of Iowa in the 206 Corvette, a 135.431. Yellow flag for something likely in the first corner.
Yeah, it's a pretty vigorously waved yellow.
Whoop.
Oh,
hello.
That's over in China Beach.
Well, get through it. That's the 327 car. That is Scott Nick in his Corvette. So gets through China Beach, kicks up a cloud of dust, and carries on and continues. And, Evan Weeder stuck right at pit exit here. So at least that's easy to retrieve that car. But
it's a shame for him because he's been one of those guys that has been top 3, I think, in virtually every session in that Club TR category.
Hey, Grant Davidson just ran a 35.8. Is that's not any quicker, is it? No, just about 3/10 off. So not quite there for Grant Davidson.
Yep. He's got the record at a 35.57.
So we'll have to retrieve Evan Weeder and get him back to the paddock, but not too far of a tow. At least it's just a couple of feet, and then you can get people to push it. Just need to get it behind the wall. It's a high-speed area on the front straightaway, so you don't want to have anybody in harm's way there. Mike Coons hit pit lane after his off. I don't know if he got into the barrier at all. I don't think he did, but he didn't stay on the racetrack. He came back in. Here's a good look at the 351 car on track right now and heading down the hill towards the backside of the course. The 351. Where is he on my list? One of our yellow.
Michael Barnes.
Michael Barnes.
Yeah. Street GT.
Yep. Ford Mustang platform. Oh, there's a black flag now, so they will have everyone return to pit lane at this stage. And this could be the end of Group B at this point. And let me take a look at our schedule here and see if they might get some more time. They might get some more time. We have enough time on the calendar, or on the schedule, I should say. 6 o'clock is our GLTC race, just after 5. And we only have 2 more groups to get through. So they might let them go back for a couple more laps. We'll see what they do here. Brandon Hodge hasn't gotten a good clean lap on this run either. He's down in 22nd at a 1:45. We know he's gone faster than that. Basinski at a 36.859. Again, just struggling with that straightaway speed. I think he probably could have had a couple more laps to go at it, but he has not gone quicker.
Was that a 36.8, you said?
For Basinski?
Yeah, 36.8. And Davison is fastest at a 35.8, so this is closer than Basinski's been. I mean, you know, he was off a little bit there, but so you know, he's got to take a little bit of solace from that. But Thorne right there at that 36 flat, splitting those two.
Yeah, Ben Thorne from the Valvoline Civic, Gears and Gasoline, runs again at 36.0 in this session. Cars are gridding back up, so we could expect that we'll get a green flag to resume this session here shortly.
And I was just, you know, looking through some of these names when it scrolls again here. That car that's in 21st, Evan McLaren, clearly was always going to be doing something involving cars.
Yeah, well, yes. Maybe it's a little bit ironic that he's driving an Acura Integra, but but we do actually have a couple. We've seen some McLarens in the track battle grid this season, and I expect we'll see them back. I think at Lime Rock, we'll see that car back. So, and probably at the track battle finals as well. But Evan McLaren running an Integra.
And the other one that just seemed to work was Mario Mirone.
Yes,
you know, that's a good one too. But you know, we do have a GT4 level almost Mercedes. That's running here. That's again pretty turnkey.
Yeah, that's from the Al's Auto Body Group. That's Cal Fortner. Competing in that car, it's a Mercedes-AMG GTS. And just like we talked about the Porsche, I think Mercedes and their street cars versus their race cars, yeah, they're different, but not by that much. They still have a lot of the same mannerisms. Now, here's the interesting thing I learned recently, because at Grid Life, we use iRacing in the off-season to do some esports stuff, as you know very well, Greg. And I learned with iRacing redid the Mercedes-AMG GT3 and the Mercedes-AMG GT4 that the GT4 car has a different engine than the GT3. The GT4 has the engine out of the street Mercedes-AMG, and the Mercedes-AMG vehicle.
Yep.
The GT3 car has the old SLS-AMG engine in it, the 6.2.
Yeah. Yep.
Big engine, very different, but it's fascinating to know that they chose them for different reasons. And this so really does share an engine. The street car does share an engine with the GT4.
And you know what? I do see a certain fascination for the, you know, as we said, the backyard or the garage engineers, the tinkerers, however you want to refer to it. Because if you're going to race a GT4 car or a GT3 car in a series that runs those cars, you can't modify them at all. You could change suspension setup and wing settings. That's it, because of the FIA and the SRO homologation on it. So I see the idea of getting a GT4 car or a GT3 car, bringing it to a track battle scenario. Well, you can do whatever you want.
Well, how about
they'll find it class for you? How fun would that be?
PhD Racing with the Supra, same thing. That car's a very impressive GT4 platform, and they've essentially, and that's one thing that Jackie has actually been trying to do, is chase GT4 lap times. Obviously, he's got a lot more power. He's under-tired for the class that he's running. Well, he's under-tired for competing with the GT4 on lap time, but it makes a lot more power than the GT4 car does now, by almost double. So that's really impressive stuff. Green flag back out for Time Attack Group B. And we'll get a couple more minutes here to lay down some lap times, maybe 2 or 3 laps for those at the pointy end. And we'll try to get an update on Evan Weeder for you at some point. But there's the 327 back on track. That's Scott Nick, an unlimited car, the 136.062. And heads down towards turn 4. And again, you can almost see, look how shiny.
I was just thinking of that earlier, and that's what we're talking about, is that, you know, that's where those dark patches are, and they just retain the heat, and then they that little sheen starts to appear.
You could see how reflective the racing line is, and that's just because it's glossy.
Yep.
It's smooth. It's got grease and rubber kind of coming up from it, and it's so visual. It's almost unbelievable. I've never seen that before here. Yep. It's almost a cheat code. You can kind of see where not to go.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we just got to give a plug to our drone pilots here.
Absolutely.
Because those high level, all the shots are amazing, but those high level aerial shots here, you just don't see that. I mean, look at this. This is phenomenal. And so now we've seen that little shiny sheen. Now imagine you've got a day like this. It's hot, it's humid, that's really there, and then it rains. Now you've got water on top of that, and that's why people say this place in the wet is diabolical.
Yeah, and we saw that earlier this weekend, and thankfully we haven't seen any other rain showers to complicate the weekend, but we have seen it be treacherous, and that's, again, for time attack purposes, it's not awesome when it rains, and we did have a couple wet sessions here this weekend. Not as many as we were expecting, though. I thought we were going to have rain all day today.
Well, that's the initial forecast. I packed rain gear based on the forecast that I had, and, thankfully haven't had to put it on once, so.
I didn't bring any.
That's my contribution because I found whenever I prepare for rain, it doesn't happen.
I just never prepare for it, and I just end up wet when it happens. I'm not great at that. So Scott Nick down in the braking zone for turn 4 again, an unlimited car. Again, usually this is because of tire selection, right? If you're on a slick racing tire, it'll bump you into unlimited basically regardless of anything else that you do. And so I think Scott's a little bit outgunned in the horsepower and aero department in the unlimited class here this weekend, but still competing in the class that he wants to compete in. And for some, it's not about the trophy at the end of the weekend. It's just about going out and improving yourself.
Yeah, race yourself, and if you constantly are improving, you feel good at the end of each session that you've made some gains. And as you said, all right, I know I'm not going to be going up and doing much against a Ferris Khartoumi with that kind of car, but I just want to drive my car on slicks. And so I'll be a few seconds off the pace, but I'm out there giving it everything I got and loving every minute of it.
So Dana Basinski is on track now in that orange BRZ, and I'd like to maybe follow him. We're chasing Marone right now, but a couple cars back, we've got the Subaru BRZ of Basinski, and he said he was going to absolutely go for it here. There's Ben Thorne ahead of him a couple of spots, and there's Basinski, and he's going to head back in. So never mind. Let's focus in on the Valvoline car then, the 66 Civic, as he sets up for a flying lap. Thorne again chasing Davidson in the weekend running. And through turn 1, we saw him have a lot of trouble with grip in turn 9. So again, I wonder if we'll see that be a factor with how slick turn 9, the entry, has gotten.
Yeah, Davison right now at a 35.8, Thorne at a 35.9. So, they are a tenth apart. So, as you said, just one full send with a little bit of luck. And Thorne can move up, or Davison can expand that margin a little bit. That's what makes this really, really fun. And here he goes. We're going to watch him, particularly of interest, coming through 8-9, because he has been, dead stick sideways through there a couple of times. 25 thousandths is all he needs to gain on Grant Davidson, but that was based on their lap times earlier in the day. He's going to need a little bit more than that to eclipse the best time. Thorne's at a 135.9 in this session and needs a 135.5 to beat Grant Davidson. All right, here through turn 9. Actually looked pretty well gripped up that time. Maybe a little tentative through there. Yeah.
Back on throttle. All right, it stuck okay. He navigated that pretty well.
Yep, and I think that was a pretty conservative run through there for him. He definitely left some room at the exit of 9 over that rise and over that curb. So I'm thinking maybe this next lap might be the one he's really going to let it fly.
All right, so through the carousel and back up onto the front straight, Ben Thorne trying to get it done here. We'll see if he can do it one more time. Alex Artea, nope, he drops the spot to Dalton Klein, who improves the spot. And Thorne trips the timing and scoring. It is not an improvement this lap, though. This is a flyer. You can tell how fast he took turn 1 this time. He's on it.
And he straightened out the exit to the carousel, and that usually means that's the start of a real flyer here.
Into the braking zone for the keyhole once again. Thorne on the brakes. We saw him pick up tires earlier in the day. And back on throttle now, down the back straightaway. Up through the gears, getting through shifts nice and cleanly. Pushing the Civic through the humid Ohio air down towards turn 4. Braking zone for turn 4 and 5. And he's got clear road ahead of him. Dalton Klein has gained ground in that Corvette. Nice line through there. Gets drivers left. Keeps it nice and tidy. Tight through 5. Down the hill. Car looks very composed.
Really good. He's got it nicely dialed up. Here down a little bit of a spin up and over the rise. Now down through the bottom. And here's been his nemesis. Looks really good through here.
And a little wide, yep, but he get the foot back down and try to carry the speed all the way to the edge of the curb.
You can hear the chirping of the tires, too.
Just try to carry a little bit too much speed in there and might have just missed the turn-in point a touch. Couldn't get it down to the apex. And again, it's one of those rising corners that if you don't turn in time, it bites you especially hard.
And unfortunately, when you hear that chirping, every one of those little chirps is stealing time. And, you know, that's as the checker comes out. Let's see what he does.
No pickup.
No pickup. Now, I just want to point something out. A couple of laps ago, the 62 of Brian Blaine, whose previous best lap was a 37.1.
Wow.
Just uncorked a 33.9.
Yeah.
So they had some little issue that they obviously figured out. And really a huge improvement for him. Well done.
Yeah, very, very solid lap. So Brian Blaine, top of the board in that track mod group in that particular session. So checkered flag there as Eddie Siegel heads in. We haven't talked about Eddie at all this weekend in the Acuity Civic Type R, but he will head back to pit lane, and a couple other cars will pick up the checkered flag here in Group B.
Dalton Klein, who sits second in this category right now, also found over a second over his previous best time. And Artea at a 34.9. He turned to 35, so he found it a little over a tenth. So, which says a lot because we're talking about how warm this place is right now. And so these guys that are finding even a tenth or a second or so, that's impressive. For Brian Blaine to find 4 seconds, they had to have had some sort of an issue.
Yeah, we saw the Tesla 5th overall in this group. That's pretty impressive stuff. There's Dana Basinski. He's trying, but he's not quite able to eat into that. So at least on broadcast, he's not going to be able to improve on his battle with Ben Thorne and Grant Davidson and Evan Weeder. But he is giving it all he's got. Mike Coons, we saw him go off. He didn't continue in the session, so hopefully that car didn't take any side of kind of damage with any contact with the tire wall. But he was in the gravel, so I don't think, unless he bounced off of it back into the gravel, I don't think he found his way to the fence. So Brian Blaine, Dalton Klein, Alex Artea, your top 3 in Track Battle Group B in this one. We're up to Group C here in just a couple moments. And then we'll head back to Track Battle D, and then be back for GridLife Touring Cup race number 4 on the weekend as our last thing on the broadcast here this afternoon. So B is over, A is over, C one last time here, Greg, and we're focusing down the order a little bit in some of the other classes. But who's up on the top? Looks like Mike Jansen, who we saw run quick earlier.
Yeah, in the street mod, the MX-5 Miata ran a 38.2, and that was the fastest in that previous session. And it's a little off, obviously, where the guys at the top of the class are. But once again, a lot of this, we talked about it, is, yeah, I'd like to, be faster than the other people, but if I'm just improving every time, and you have to learn as a racing driver how to measure your improvement, because when you go out in a morning session where the conditions are perfect and you get a good lap, then you go out later in the afternoon and you drive a better lap, but you're a tenth or two slower because simply of the weather and the track conditions. You have to mentally be able to extrapolate and go, yeah, but I improved myself. That was a better lap. I was smoother. I didn't make as many mistakes, all of that kind of thing. And that's how you have to judge those improvements and keep pushing.
And there are some competitors that they bring a brand new build into a new class that they haven't competed in before, and some of them go right to the top of the board. But for lots, it takes effort and lots of tweaking and tuning and parts changing to find the magic balance of things that make your car fast. So for not every event's going to be a great one. And sometimes you might be outside the podium down the order a little bit going, what did I do wrong here? Go back to the drawing board for the next event and pick up time and improve.
Well, and I mean, with all of the pro racing I've announced over the years, so you've got some of the best drivers on the planet, right? And they'll go to a track and test a month before the event. And they come to the same track. Everything about it is the same. Weather might be a little different. And suddenly they're a second off of where they were able to run, or they're a half second quicker, and they've done nothing different. And you just have to accept that and go, that's what the track's giving us. So we just have to do the best we can with that track condition and then judge your personal improvement through that window. And that's really, really important to do.
All right, so Group C rolling out now, and as we get rolling onto the road here at this stage, looking down the list, we've got cars rolling, and the wind's blowing. Well, I guess the inflicted wind. We've got a fan in here. Mike Jansen, Brad Perkins from Chicane Motorsports out here, Matthew Koval, Rico Valdez, Cody Smith, Darian Taggart, Kevin Vo, Ido Waxman. A lot more Falcon Club TR competitors in this mix.
Lots of them in this group. So they always run so close and so immensely competitive. And, you know, to go back to a lap, it's the pursuit of the perfect lap that all of this is about. You're never going to get it. And to that example, I always, you know, tell people about in the mid-90s in Trans Am when I was announcing that, and there were a couple of years where there were 15 guys that could legitimately win any race. And got to Road Atlanta, which is a relatively short, really fast track. So normally the times are super compressed there, right? Tommy Kendall put his Roush Racing Mustang on pole by 0.6 of a second over the fellows and Schraders and Tills and all of that. And I went to him afterwards and I said, Tommy, how did you do that? And his response has stuck with me forever. He said, well, I guess I just made a few less mistakes on that lap than the other guys did. And, you know, I said, really, you're 0.6 clear and you don't think it was a great lap? He goes, it was a darn good lap. He said, but I know there were a couple of spots where I left a little. He said, you never get the perfect lap, but it's the pursuit of that lap that is the journey in motorsports, and that's the joy of it. That's what track battle is all about.
Through turn one, Jansen, the 523 Miata, kicks it off. And we're going to see if anybody else can pick up in this particular session. We haven't seen a lot of pickup lately, but the later in the day we get, the more track is in shadow. We've seen some greasy areas going to start to pop up, but the whole turn 4, turn 5 complex, I think, is getting close to being under shade.
It's getting there, isn't it? So hopefully that's what will play out here. Matthew Koval was the fastest of the Club TR drivers in this group in his S2000 at a 139.1 for Club TR in the rear-wheel drive division, if you will. And the record is, he's not, let's see, it's a 139. Yeah, he's about a second and a half off of that. So he's got work to do, but that's pretty impressive still.
Cars working their way to the backside of the racetrack, and there's the Jansen car. Kevin Vo's on track in a Scion FRS chasing Darian Taggart and Ido Waxman. Those are all Falcon Club TR cars. Jeremy Bailey in the 13 is also in a BRZ or FRS. I don't know which on Bailey. I think he's pulled the badges off it, so it's hard to tell. Brad Reeman's out there in the street class Ford Focus RS, which we talked about already. But Taggart, Vo, and Waxman, they've had their own great battle in Falcon Club TR.
Yeah, they really, really have. And that's, you know, they always run so close, and that's what makes it so fun in this category. And it's a class that obviously you can do some tinkering on, but the cars are all really relatively close, and that just makes it really exciting. And then, of course, in this class we also have the was it the Cutlass? Yeah, Cody Smith out in the Cutlass that we just saw.
There's the 194 car. Now, that car is Michael Calloway. I don't think we've talked about Michael this weekend in street class in a Subaru Impreza. And again, lots of Subarus in that street class. It seems to be where they all like to fall.
Well, those Subarus they're just incredibly sweet handling cars, and they do tend, with the right work on it, to have themselves a fair amount of squirt in terms of power too. So those Imprezas are impressive.
Yeah, certainly. Peter Zhang is sharing a car with Azmath Mohammed in an orange Scion FRS, and one car a little wide there on the exit of the keyhole. But that is a car that I own. I own a very similar looking one. It's got less track parts on it than that car, but another capable chassis with a Subaru heart. So despite a lot of street class Subarus out there, there's also some Falcon Club TR cars with Subaru hearts as well in the shape of a Scion, a Toyota, or a Subaru, depending on where you bought the car from. But heading up over the hill. All right, Greg. We have streamed Group A and B here this weekend, as well as Group C. Now, typically Sunday Cup ends up in Group C, but because they haven't this weekend, we're going to do a little bit, whoa, as the Peter Zhang car loops around at the exit of 5. Hello.
Okay.
Oh, well, comes to a stop there at the exit of turn 5. Well, he's stuck in the grass. We have not gotten to talk about Sunday Cup beyond just conceptual, so I've asked for permission to stream a little bit of Group D just to get one of those trains of Sunday Cup in before we take a quick break before GLTC. I want everyone at home to see it at least once this weekend, so we'll do that a couple of minutes between Group C and the GLTC race, just so we can get a little bit of screen time for those boys. That's the intention of Group C streaming, but because there's so many cars here this weekend, it just kind of got shuffled down the list. So we're going to give them one moment on broadcast to make sure that they know that they're appreciated in those.
Well,
awesome
and they
Sunday
deserve
cars.
it.
Of course they do.
And they are, obviously they're not going to be as fast as the other stuff out here, but there is very little doubt that they are among the most fun of the cars to be driving out there. And there are parts of this track where they'll just be flat and just absolutely on the edge. And that's the thing, whether you're driving a 1,000 horsepower unlimited car or a Sunday Cup car or anything in between, the goal is to get to that limit of that car.
Whoa, big slide for Kevin Vo off at turn 4, and he gathers it back up and will slowly
nicely done
come down out of turn 5. Very well done. What is it with the 86s having issues in this session?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's that happened at the exit of 4. The other one was here at the exit of 5. And, I think the track's just greasier than they experienced it. And, sometimes you don't find out just how slick it can be until you're on that ragged edge through a turn, and suddenly there's no grip there. Yeah,
and my experience from what people have told me about S2000s versus the 86 BRZ chassis, because they're very comparable cars in the Falcon Club TR class, is that the S2000, while it has impeccable balance and by default a much better power plant than the 86 BRZ does, the S2000, when you get it sideways, it wants to snap. It is not a car that likes to play over the edge very much, where in contrast, the 86 and BRZ cars are playful. They will let you hang it out sideways and are a lot more predictable over the limit. But I think we saw Kevin Vo get a little bit too far past that. And then once you hit the grass, there's no saving that. You just got to gather it back up.
Yeah, especially with the rain that we had yesterday. That grass is still damp. But that's part of it too. Some cars, just by their design, are more user-friendly, and some are dartier. Generally, the dartier car in the hands of a pro will be the quicker car. But you still need to have a car that speed in a race car is all from confidence. If you're confident in the car, that's when you're willing to push the limit a little bit. And if you're not at that top tier pro level of driver and you're in a car that's a little bit darty, it makes you nervous. The car's nervous, so you feel nervous with it, and that can just kind of sap your confidence a little bit. So having a car that's nice, user-friendly, catchable, telegraphs, okay, yeah, we're going to slide here, be ready for it.
Yep.
That's nice to have.
And it also heavily depends on the tire that you have.
You bet.
And, of course, Falcon Club TR is on that spec Falcon RT660, which is a great tire on the edge. And the grip level is very, very high. So I don't think, as a beginner driver for myself, there's so much corner grip. It's not a tire that I would subscribe to out of the gate because it's so aggressively grippy. Sometimes it's great to learn on a higher tread wear, a 300 or 400 tread wear tire, just to get the experience of losing grip first, because when you're going faster, you're playing at a higher limit. And when you're going, 30 miles an hour faster in a corner, that's not where you want to discover you need to learn how to control your car.
Exactly.
So there's some play there as well. There's Brad Raymond.
And what happens when you've got either a tire or a car or a combination of both that has that nervous edge and wants to, step out, you just have to have very quick hands without big movements. And that's how, just that little correct and be able to do it fast. Because if you save it like you would on a lazy, more predictable tire, and you have that that easy steer, you're going around.
Right.
And so it's all about you've got to adapt your driving to the tire and to the car as well, and just be quick reaction time.
Yeah, and the RT660 that the drivers are on in Club TR, it is an incredibly fast tire. And it's used a lot in autocross as well because it's just so sticky. It's a very, very sticky 200 tread wear tire. So while it has those high corner speeds that you might be a little intimidating for a driver in a car that is snappy on the limit, the tire is a predictable tire, right? So it's knowing that knowing your capabilities beyond that limit are what drivers have to figure out. But the tire itself, extremely grippy, and that's also what the Sunday Cup competitors are on, albeit a much smaller sizing, of course, for their Fits, their Mazda 2s, and their Honda CRZs, and so on and so forth. Here's an NC generation Miata, Greg. Let's talk about Miatas for a second. NA, NB, NC, ND, pick your flavor.
Any one of them. They are just fun. They are just, it's a great car. each level has a little bit of improvement. I'm particular to the second level because that's the car that I drove a couple of times and just fell in love with how well they handled. But every one of them, I mean, since they came out with that car, no matter what variant, what year, whatever, they've always been right at the front of any category that they're allowed to run in.
Now, this probably is not a car that would be at the front of any car, maybe NASCAR at Daytona potentially in the 1980s, but this is a car that we've talked about at length in past broadcasts, but it's a 1987 Oldsmobile Cutlass. Yeah, not a thing that you would expect to be on a road course by any stretch, but just enjoying the experience of playing with an older platform and kind of making something work on the racetrack that otherwise wouldn't. And there's the 194 car, Mike Callaway, going for a slide. Guess what? At turn 9.
That's been the tricky spot here all day today, really.
Even for all-wheel drive cars.
Yeah. He's, Well, and the thing is, we talked about that a little bit. All-wheel drive is great, but it also gets you going quicker sometimes than you realize because of that great traction. And all-wheel drive doesn't help you slow down much.
No.
Engine braking to a degree will, but it doesn't help you slow down much. So you're suddenly going a little bit quicker through a slipperier part of the track than you might realize. And then it's, brakes? Yeah, not enough. And off you go. So again, that's all part of adjusting things. It's that deal which I learned the hard way. Fortunately, I got away with it. But when all right, I think I can carry a higher gear here through this corner. You do it. You come out of the corner with 1,000 more revs. You got to remember to brake that little bit sooner for that next corner, and you don't do that, off you're going to go. And like I said, I learned that one the hard way at a driver's school at Road Atlanta. So.
Thankfully, I haven't learned a hard lesson yet. I intend not to. I intend to learn my lessons before I need to learn them. I hope. But that's not always the case, and there is inherent risk with track driving.
I didn't hit anything. Well, I dirtied up a really pretty car with red Georgia clay and dust.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you do that just by driving around Road Atlanta, though.
Well, that's true. You just do that by driving around Atlanta, period.
That's true. So, Time Attack Group C continues. Jansen, Koval, Bailey, Valdez, Waxman at the top of the board. In just a moment, the checkered will fall on Group C, and we're going to show you a little bit of Group D just so we can get the Sunday Cup guys some airtime before we cut away for GLTC. So, let's see some results for Time Attack Group C. Top of the board in this one. And here in just a moment here, we'll have your top 10 and scroll on through. Mike Jansen again in that Mazda Miata, 137.463. 2 seconds clear of the next quickest car in this session, so the gaps were getting much bigger. Ido Waxman, Cody Smith, Kevin Vo, Darian Taggart in the mix. Vo, Taggart, and Panera all right on top of each other. Not Fast Motorsports, Peter Zhang and Asmaf Muhammad, 14th in that session to 143.270. I do know that 28 car also has the stock FA20 in it, which is very similar to Kevin Vo's car. So, not a lot done to it other than suspension brakes, a little bit of aero. And Tom Halka, a 145.2. Brad Riemann at a 145.087 in that Ford Focus RS. All right, so Group C complete. And in just a moment, we'll have our Falcon Sunday Cup competitors on track. We'll take a very brief break. We'll be back when they come around to start their laps. Coverage of GRIDLIFE Mid-Summer Meet is brought to you by Momo, made in Italy since 1964. And by FCP Euro. Every part you buy is guaranteed for life. And eBay Motors. Let's ride. And Falcon Tires. The Falcon Zenith RT660 is the official tire of Club TR.
At 303, we're always chasing perfection. Protect your ride with graphene nanospray coating. Now, boost protection, shine, and slickness with Graphene Detailer. Level up your detailing game. Harness the power of graphene with 303.
Ooh. Call Logano. Hey, Joey, you can save money if you fill up at Shell if you use Advanced Auto Parts Speed Perks.
Dude, I'm way ahead of you.
You saved at the pump?
Yeah, I saved at the pump.
The pump?
The pump.
You saved at the pump!
Woo! Now you can save at the pump when you shop at Advance Auto Parts. Learn more at advanceautoparts.com/gas rewards.
Now, it's my turn.
The more power you have, the more grip you have, the more you push the limits, the more stopping power you need. Get race-proven technology. Hawk Performance.
Hey, we still on this weekend for a little?
You know it. I'm in desperate need of some.
What about you, Jim?
No, my sister's getting the wedding. She's getting married, so.
When adventure calls, make sure you're ready to answer. Stable 360 ethanol treatment is specifically formulated for year-round use, so your engines will be ready when you are. Ready, willing, stable.
We've been powering the American road since before it was paved. Our first breakthrough in motor oil was introducing it. And we've been reinventing it ever since. From the world's first high-mileage oil to the world's first synthetic blend. There are those who change with the times, and those who drive them. Valvoline, the original motor oil.
We're back at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for coverage of Time Attack Track Battle Group D, and here's the Sunday Cup group, and look at all of them, Greg. This is so fun.
And they just always pack up, don't they? Because they're looking for any kind of draft they can get, anything they can do, using the guy in front as a carrot, trying to get a little tow and having some fun. And this is why this group, when the drivers get out of these cars, the grins are the biggest you're going to find probably in the entire thing. And the best part about this is these cars, bang for the buck, I don't think there's anything better because they are a blast to drive and they're relatively inexpensive.
Certainly. And look at this train down the backstretch and a couple of the cars in this train at the front. Sam Dooling, who is here with Abbott Auto Performance, and with Jake Abbott, who's right behind him in line. Sam and Jake, they are part of our tech crew here as well this weekend. They've been doing a phenomenal job getting some track time here this afternoon. That's great to see for them. But Jake Abbott's car was in the wall at Autobahn Country Club and destroyed the whole left side of the car. He basically pulled the dents out. He said, I bought it for $800. I don't care. I'm going to go back out and do it again. Well, not put it in the wall, but go out and compete again next week. And here he is. So Dooling, Abbott, Smith, Streeter in the Mini Cooper in the 771 car. about third or fourth in line there. That's a really unique choice. Mini Coopers, heavier, slower Miatas. You've got fits in this category, Mazda 2s. You could bring a Yaris. You could bring all sorts of stuff and fit right into this group.
Now, here's the thing. What can you do to these cars in terms of any kind of modifications? It's very restricted.
Pretty restricted. I mean, you can run any brakes that you want, essentially any suspension that you want, but you can't really do anything to the power level. And
you can't modify the pickup points or anything like that, right?
Yeah, correct. So it's relatively straightforward in terms of classing, and it's not spec, but it's pretty close to it. And you end up with cars that, dyno at 89 wheel horsepower, and that's awesome because you're carrying speed and you're in packs and you're using the slipstream. And this is so fun. There's Jake Abbott tucking in behind Streeter into turn one, and here's some lap times. Look at Goo up in the 782 up to a 151.315, but just getting up to speed. And as these cars burn the fuel off, weight is an important factor in these. And I know they don't have a lot of fuel in them, but you just have to worry about fuel starving them because of where the fuel pickup is.
Right, and the issue is these are fairly light cars, so a tank or whatever they run for fuel becomes a higher percentage of a lighter car, and that means it affects it just a little bit more. So when they burn off, they definitely will be. And what happens when the car gets lighter, everything about it gets more responsive. It accelerates better, it brakes better, it turns better, all of that, and that's part of the game. To give you an idea, folks, of how competitive this Sunday Cup class is, the track record coming in here set last year, Matt Williams ran a 150.484. As of the previous session, 6 guys were underneath him.
And they're all incredibly close on the timing sheet. Look at the results from earlier in the day. We've got, how many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars in the 49s?
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. So close.
And like we said yesterday, yes, this is a class to get your feet wet into track competition because the limits are low, but it's also a catch net for those that have burned themselves out on crazy fast, crazy ridiculous, crazy expensive cars. This is just where you go to have simple, fun competition, but also at an extremely high level. Let's make no mistake, these cars are not going that fast, but they're going fast, if you know what I mean.
Well, and they are being driven at the top end of this on the limit of the car, and that's what, doesn't matter what you're driving, if you get to the limit of that car, you're doing well, and you're having fun, and that's what this is about, and this allows you to do it inexpensively, safely, and everything. And if you are a young person that has some designs on maybe, geez, I'd like to do a lot of racing here, well, it gives you a wonderful opportunity to learn how to drive momentum, which will serve you well no matter where you end up. Dorsey Schrader to this day says he won his Trans Am championship as a rookie because all the time he spent in spec racer. Underpowered, undertired, momentum.
Well, with that, we got to get prepped for our GLTC race. So we got a couple of laps in there, but I don't think the records are falling quite yet for this one. So stay tuned. Keep an eye on the social media for the Sunday Cup competition. We'll be back in a few minutes for Grid Life Touring Cup race number 4.
Hightower pushes Jensen along the exit of turn number 4. This win, it's big slide.
It's time to go racing at GRIDLIFE Midwest. Hill side by side. O'Gorman around the outside now for the top spot. Tom O'Gorman goes to lead. 3 wide for the lead.
This is great racing, folks. This is what this series is all about.
Racing drivers like to control their own destiny. In GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 4, this is the least control the top 10 has had over their destiny all weekend long. They qualified, they raced, it all was up to them. But with a 9-car invert for our final race of the weekend, it was up to randomness, to random choice. 9 cars got flipped around. Our pole sitter is Emil Tab. Alongside him will be Eric Catil. They finished 8th and 9th in race number 3, Greg. We invert those top 9, and that brings a lot of uncertainty into this final race of the weekend.
It absolutely does, and it also brings a lot of fast guys a little bit deeper in the pack than they would normally be in, which means this is going to be an exciting 15-minute race for sure to wrap up this Mid-Summer Meet weekend here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. We've had 3 phenomenal races. This should, in theory, be the best.
Yeah, we have 50 cars on the grid. They were getting yelled at a little while ago to get there in time, because getting 50 cars lined up and gridded is a challenge on false grid here. If you don't make it to grid in time for, I believe it's the 5-minute whistle, they will start you at the back. Ask how James Houghton knows that. That happened to him earlier this season. So drivers got to be on grid, got to be ready to go. Once we do our lap and a half pace lap, we're turning them loose for about 12 to 15 minutes, Greg. And with that invert, we buried Tom O'Gorman all the way down in 9th place. Now, in the past, that hasn't been a whole lot of a deterrent for him. But this weekend, he's carrying a lot of extra rewards, weight, and ballast. This could be a challenge for him to get back up, at least to the lead. We know he's going to move forward, but for how long?
Well, that's the issue. And, other tracks, for instance, at the festival, he came from deep in one of those races, made up a ton of ground, and got himself back into play here. That was a track that had more passing opportunities than this one. And, with that overlap rule here, he could be in for a long 15 minutes here. But if anybody could do it, Tom O can. So that's going to be the fun part of it. But joining him is the defending champion, Jeremy Swenson, who starts in 8th, Andy Smedegard, Robert Thorne, Luke McGrew, who's been on form this weekend in that new Corvette. These guys all have some work to do. And the guys that are up front, they've been up front before. They know how to defend.
They certainly do. Our safety car is a Toyota GR Supra. That was one of the winners of our pace car contest. Every round of GRIDLIFE action that we do, we post on Instagram to ask for your submissions to GRIDLIFE Officials Instagram, to basically give us what you got in your garage. Do you think it's cool enough to be a GLTC pace car? We've had all sorts of things. We've had the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. We've had trucks, and we've had lifted Miatas and lifted Porsches and slammed this and Japanese Halo car that, and all of the in between. But this, a Toyota GR Supra leading the way as they head down towards Keyhole. Let's roll through our starting lineup here for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 4 with that 9-car inversion from race 3. Emil Tab rolls off in the number 14 car from the winning formula alongside Eric Catil, his brand new JTCC inspired build, in 2nd place.
In the 3rd spot, it's Aaron Lichty, a really quick Porsche Cayman, joined by the number 90 of Matt Walbaum from ASM.
Row 3, Luke McGrew in the number 7 Corvette, alongside Robert Thorne in his 1995 M3, the number 180. He starts in 6th.
Row 4, Andy Smedegard in the number 212 Honda S2000, starting in the 8th spot alongside Jeremy Swenson, the defending champion, in the number 30 Corvette.
Starting in 9th, and the recipient of the inversion to the full extent, Tom O'Gorman, starts 9th. Rob Manicherry starts in 10th for the winning formula.
Rob's been looking very good this weekend. Eric Jensen starts in the 11th spot in his V8-powered Scion, the number 184, joined by the 527. Happens to be his son, Maverick.
Pervez Randelia starts 13th, and there's Jake Jorenstad. Free the nip. Jorenstad rolls off 14th out of row number 7.
Being nice and cool, he
Certainly.
is. Ryan Upham starts in the 13th spot. The 15th spot in the number 13. Gary Wimble, who's had a rough first go, has been rebounding nicely. Up next,
Scott Robertson starts in 17th alongside Steve Pruden in 18th place on row 9.
In the 19th spot, Colton Wade in the number 18 BMW, joined in the 20th starting spot by the 77 of Hans Horpedahl in the S2000.
Row number 11, Chris Adams from the winning formula, and Matan Rosenberg starts 22nd in that 484. Big pickup from race 3.
And going to row 12, starting 23rd, the 41 of James Houghton, who's had a win here this weekend already, and Paul Darling in the number 55 BMW.
Row number 13 will be Fiona Liu in her 2007 Honda S2000. Julio Crispin starts 26th in his number 911 Nissan 350Z.
Row 14, it'll be the number 47 of Jeff Preston starting in the 27th spot. The 117 of Nick Sarter in the BMW starts 28th.
In 29th place, Dustin Barty with the Acuity Instruments Honda Civic. Brad Kasiba rolls off 30th in his Mazda MX-5 Miata.
Starting in the 31st spot is Ryan Christoph in his Honda CRX, number 469, and Adam Ulrich in the number 4 Chevrolet Corvette.
Row 17, starting 33rd, Kevin Zhu in the number 243 Civic. Joshua Rubenstein in the 159 starts 34th.
And in row 18, starting in the 35th spot, Thomas Moss in his number 515 MX-5. And in the number 290, Nissan Matthew Park will roll off 36.
Row 19, Matt Corrins, his second ever GRIDLIFE Touring Cup weekends. In his number 52, starts 37th. 38th, Seth Gale with Hawk Performance rolls off in 38th.
Starting 39th, it'll be Craig Moulton in the number 57 MX-5 Miata. Starting in the 40th spot, the 113 Miata of Wes Penn.
Clayton Fitzpatrick starts 41st in the number 71. Richard Sawicki starts in 42nd in the 528 car.
Starting 43rd in the number 203 MX-5, it's Austin Leipart. And in the 546 BMW, Andy Sundin starts 44th.
45th place will be Lisa Keys in the 137. And Paul Curley starts 46th in his number 45 Corvette.
Going to row 24 in the 47th spot, it'll be Felipe Gonzalez in his number 12 Honda S2000. And the number 36 of Tyler Starr, Will Sturt, on the outside of that final row.
All right, almost 50 cars gearing up for racing in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 4. Cars heading towards the keyhole, Greg. When they come through turn 3, they're going green. With that invert, we're going to see those fast 9 kind of flipped around. So Tomo is going to have a lot of cars to get through here on the start.
He's going to, I imagine how aggressive he's going to be down into turn 4 if he can make it work. But here we go, coming up for the start.
Emil Tab on the left-hand side of your screen on driver's right from the winning formula. He's got his teammate in the Cayman behind him. He is your pole sitter, Eric Catil, in the hybrid racing EG to the outside. He is starting in second. Green flag and a late start by Tab, but here comes Waldbaum around the outside. He takes the lead. For a moment, they're 4 wide heading down towards turn 4.
Oh, that is incredible. And Waldbaum now going to get the jump here. Runs a little wide through that corner. I think he wanted to make sure he didn't turn down on anybody. What a start by Matt Waldbaum.
Well, a little bit of dirt and dust kicked up in the backdrop as we head down to turn number 6. Now Waldbaum leads the way. Catil second. Here's Swenson around the outside of Tab as we sweep on through.
This very, very tight serpentine bit of racetrack here, and this lead duo has had a little bit of a break because of that battling behind that you were talking about. And Swenson, what a launch from 8th to 3rd.
And a huge slide over the crest to turn 9. He is on a mission. He's got his biggest nemesis, is plural, buried in the field right now as they head to turn number 11 and 12 for the first time.
Robert Thorne, a good start, too. It looks like he's up into that 4th spot, doing a really, really nice job.
Catil under pressure from Swenson here. Big slide by the number 30 Viking Performance car. Smedegaard was side by side with Luke McGrew, and Tom O'Gorman has slotted past the number 7 as well. He's going to tuck in behind his teammate, but he's got a lot of progress still left to go.
Boy, he sure does. And there's a look at Thorne. Talking to Thorne before the race started, he said, I've got the front of the car working better. It's keeping those fronts alive a little bit longer. He said, we're still working on a few things. He said, but I'll tell you what, the guys up front in this category are fast.
Nice and clean start here. Yeah. Look at James Houghton pulling up through the field. He had an ECU problem that was causing a throttle cut. I think they've sorted it a little bit, and whoop, there's some gravel and some dust in the sky. Don't know where that was. We'll have to get an update on that once the dust clears. And there's a couple cars involved here. Gary Wimble and Jake Jornstad, the 23 and the 1, are in the gravel at turn number 1.
That is a shame for Wimble. We're talking about him in that first race.
Whoa, Eric Catil locks up into turn 4. Big slide for the number 82, and Swenson was all on top of him. They didn't touch, but it was awful close.
Really, really close. And then there is Smedegaard, then there's Lichty, then O'Gorman, and then McGrew. So O'Gorman, he moved up, as you said, but not a lot. Swenson, the big gainer on that opening lap.
Yeah, so car stuck in the gravel at turn 1. Full course caution.
Yep.
And that was kind of expected, but I like that they threw it quick because we should get some time to finish this race out. This is the last event on the day, so we have a little bit of time to play with here.
And I agree with you. That's obviously probably going to be a caution. Let's call it right away so we can sort through and get as much green flag racing as we possibly can.
We also get a restart.
Yeah.
And restarts happen on the front straightaway. Very different dynamic, Greg, from the initial race start. So Matt Waldbaum, there's 3 cars involved here. Who's the other one? Let's get a look at that last car in line. That is Hans Horpedal. That's another Myriad Motorsports car.
Boy.
So 2 from that team tangled with Gary Wimble. And thankfully, I don't see a lot of damage on these cars, so it might have just had a spin in a wild moment, ended up in the gravel. But a little bit of damage. It looks like a bumper clip on that 23 is let go. So thankfully, nothing too major, just stuck in a bad spot.
Well, turn 1, if you don't count the kink that they call turn 3 here, is easily the fastest turn on this track. And so, somebody loses it there, others scattering behind them. We're going to have that kind of a moment. And I was just about to talk about Gary Wimble because he showed up his first time running this car. He in the first qualifying, he had a little bit of an issue, and he ran 41st in that race. He went from 41st to 27th to get himself up and get a good time to be able to move forward. He said, we're still working on this car, and they discovered they were about 160 pounds overweight. So he said, we've got work to do. This is our first weekend. He's lost a little bit of track time here, obviously.
I thought that was the radiator sticking out of the nose. It's just an LED light bar, so no concern. I really do just think that's just the bumper clip on that car. I hope it's not more significant than that.
Doesn't look like it.
There is something laying off to the side. If we can pan that camera over left a little bit, there is a piece of something on the ground. That might help answer the question. Or is that just a shadow?
I think it's just a shadow.
Okay, never mind. I thought I saw something, but my eyes are deceiving me. I don't want to see parts litter on the ground, Greg. That's not what we do.
Exactly. So, if we can just get these cars on the tow hook, pull them out, they might even be able to just drive off.
You hope.
And that would be nice. Get them around, get them into the pits. Maybe they can come out and still get a little bit of track time.
Yeah, and the fact that none of the drivers have gotten out of their vehicles yet, that tells me that they just want to get a tow back onto the pavement. They're ready to continue. If you get out, that's it for you. You can't get back in and carry on. So they're just going to wait for the safety vehicles to come extract them, and there's 3 of them, so it might take a minute here. But we'll keep that pace car speed slowed down. Mike Cohn behind the wheel of that thing, keeping us under caution for the first time this weekend. And again, Hans Horpedal is another one of the cars involved, and looks like we're waiting on extraction here. But he's in there pretty deep. He's gone in.
He's augured in pretty well, hasn't he? And I'll tell you, with that start, we've been sort of teasing a little bit, having some fun with that purple Viking performance sponsored car, calling it the Purple People Leader. But man, it was on that opening lap. 5 spots he made up, and 4 of those he made up by the time he got out of turn 4.
Right, and here's a driver that might not be that upset with the yellow is Eric Catil, because he was concerned he wouldn't be able to hang tough, but after a lap of racing, he was right with Matt Waldbaum and staying ahead of Swenson. So if we don't have a lot of time where Swenson could really take the attack to him like he did to O'Gorman, Catil might be able to grab a podium out of this. That'd be a phenomenal end of the weekend. Tab fell down to 5th, but he's still hanging on. O'Gorman only made up 1 spot, but we know it's going to be more than that.
And I think with Coutil, we're so obvious, in the past, seeing him at the front fighting for wins and everything, that, seeing him back in the, 7th, 8th position, you forget that this is a brand new car making its debut, isn't it? And so for Coutil, I think that he's got an awful lot to be pretty pleased about.
I would say so, and it looks like Jake is looking at the left side of the car, kind of shaking his head. So I hope there's not more that we can't see. And
that could be a problem. There's Gary.
Yep. Again, they're in there pretty deep, so this is going to be a little bit of an extensive process. But we don't like seeing rollback trucks, Greg. That's not what we do.
No, we don't like that at all. Just a flat toe out of the gravel, that's what we want to see here. And the problem is, you would think hook up to the back, just pull them out that way. Pulling them out forward is going to require getting that front end lifted a little bit.
Now, here's the good news, just for those that aren't familiar. There is some suspension damage on Gary Wimble's car.
That's the deal.
Yep, there's something broken for sure. And again, I don't know if that is the cause or the result of whatever we had happen here, but that is a real shame. So just while we update folks that are watching at home that haven't seen a GLTC caution before, we will likely go beyond our 12 to 15-minute race window. That timer will keep ticking. It's going to keep going past 0 into the negatives. That's okay. We don't have a set time, a set distance. We just race until we've kind of covered our bases in terms of getting enough action for everybody on the track and in the stands here. So we might go into the negatives. It might be, under yellow for 5 or 10 more minutes, but we still have the opportunity. We could even bring the cars onto pit lane and stop them and then resume the race. We still have a little bit of time until we're supposed to be cold track at 6:30. So we have a little bit of time to play with here. I just would not rather spend it digging cars out of the gravel. Here's the good news, Greg, though. Let's keep things in perspective, right? This is the first real incident of the weekend, and we strive in grid life to not hit your buddies and not have contact and to always leave space. But we have 50 cars on Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course on a slick and hot day. and we've only had one. I mean, let's keep that in perspective here.
Absolutely.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is really impressive what we've seen this weekend, and we have never yet had an incident on the opening lap. If you obviously count it, because they completed that and went through turn 1, and that's where that happened. And with that amount of cars, as you were talking about, what they've done this weekend in terms of really understanding it. And the thing is, we don't know what happened there, but if you spin in traffic or something happens, the guys around you are going to get caught up in it. That isn't any kind of a shutting the door on somebody or whatever. Right. So truly incidental, and it's really impressive what they've been able to do here. And getting back to what you were talking about being able to run long or whatever, I think what it comes down to is in the 15-minute time limit in GridLife Touring Cup is like the pirate code. It's more of a guide.
It is a guide, yeah. And, that's great because we don't want races to end under yellow. We don't like doing things like that.
Right.
But the other thing, we talk about incidents, right, and we don't like to accept that they happen. But there is an expectation that at some point race cars are going to have contact, right? You don't accept it. You don't say it's okay.
Right.
You just always strive to be better and to move on, and I think we've consistently done that. Yeah, we don't like crashing cars. We specifically drill into drivers' heads that it's not an okay thing to do. It's not okay to hit people. But there is an expectation in motorsports that it will happen sometimes.
Sure, absolutely.
And that's a risk that these drivers, accept. And some might think they accept it. It is frustrating in the moment. And yes, but we're racing at an extremely high level. Watch any other North American motorsport, and Greg, things happen.
Oh, they do. And as I said, the one thing that you can control is people taking somebody else out, whether it's intentional or not, but turning in on them, dive bombing them. That you don't see in this series, rarely, if at all. But when you're running in a pack and something happens to one car in that pack, things can happen.
So the left rear of Jake Jornstad's car has seen some hip and shoulder.
Yes.
As has the left front of Gary Wimble's car. Now, if you're doing the geometry like I am in my head, that doesn't make any sense.
No, but there was a third car involved.
There was a third car involved.
That could have been the pinball.
Right. Or, again, we could have had just everybody trying to escape a spinning car, and then when they hit the gravel or hit the edge of the road, that can cause that sort of thing as well.
Exactly.
So we'll decode it and figure it out. But remember that timer at the top of the screen is not the GridLife Bible to live and die by here. We're going to go into negative time. That's totally okay. And race director Scott Giles is going to make a decision on how many laps we're going to go racing for after this. Typically, it's not a ton. We're not going to race six or 7 laps. But we might get 2, 3, 4. It's somewhere in that range and get another 8 to 10 minutes out of this. We have time for about 6 or 7 laps. I'm not sure we'll get that much. But with 2 of the 3 cars extracted, that should clear out most of the carnage here.
And the nice thing is, in between 1 and the back straight, there's this double barrier wall, so they can literally, right there, they can tuck those cars, get that third one out, tuck it there. They don't have to bring them all the way around to the pits. It's a short race window that's left. Let them run, then come back and pick the cars up. So hopefully because that will save some time.
What's Jake Jordan? He was standing on the tire wall over there in turn 1. Not sure what that was all about. Exactly. Just under the drone here. He was just getting the breeze there through turn 1, but looks like 2 of the 3 have been pulled into a safe area, and that might have been 3 of 3, actually. I think they got Hans's car hooked up as well.
All right, so
hoping we'll get green next time by if all things point that way.
I would think we should be able to do that.
So
all a matter of what the gravel trap there at the exit of 1 looks like. Oh, he's still there.
Yeah, he is still there. I guess they're still waiting on one other safety truck here to hook that car up, potentially. That thing is buried.
Yeah, it really is. They've got a truck there, but it's in too deep to just be able to flat tow that out. So that's the problem.
So cars warming up their tires and getting prepped for a potential restart here in GridLife Touring Cup race number 4. Kyle Heyer joined by Greg Kramer for our last race of the weekend at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And so far, the race winners have been Tom O'Gorman, James Houghton, and Tom O'Gorman. And this one, with the 9-car invert, has pushed O'Gorman down to 8th place in the opening stages of this. Matt Walbaum leads the way. Eric Cattell runs in second. A strong start for Cattell.
Yeah.
I thought he might beat him down to turn 1, Emil Tab that is, but then here comes Matt Walbaum up the outside. He got a phenomenal jump to driver's left.
He timed it to perfection. That front row of Tab and Coutil, they just mistimed their start a little bit, and Walbaum was ready, as was Swenson, clearly, and Walbaum went to the outside, and Swenson may have just followed him around at that point, but it paid off because both of them going from where they started right to the front, and for Walbaum, that was 4th to the lead. From Swenson, that was 8th to 3rd. Not too shabby.
And we did do 4 wide for the lead for a moment. I saw that on the drone. That was there, by the way.
No question. Yeah, exactly. That was impressive.
It really was. So I hope that we get some green flag racing here to end this out. But Eric Coutil following Matt Walbaum there. And Jake waving to the camera. Yes, quite the character he is.
He is. He is indeed.
But probably a little bit bummed about the way this is going to end for him.
Yeah.
But again, keeping things in perspective, Myriad Motorsports is extremely capable. Felipe Gonzalez's car I thought that car was destroyed and totaled after Autobahn Country Club. They pulled that thing straight. They replaced a couple parts and pieces, and that was that. So that car was back here competing this weekend. But it'll be another long night back at the shop to get that thing straightened back out. Hopefully it's just suspension bits. We didn't see a lot of body work, though. So maybe just some wheel-to-wheel contact and just parts broken.
Yep.
It's hard to avoid that.
Well, and so often in racing, it's really all about angles. And you can hit really hard side to side and not do any damage. You can hit fairly softly and just get the angle just right where it'll buckle something. And that's, it's almost, the random luck of the draw on that. But it didn't look like hard contact, maybe just enough to break a control arm.
Yep.
That's
all it takes.
Simple. So, yep.
All right, they got this car about to be retrieved here.
Yep.
And Jake's just flipping through the phone there, probably. Just getting prepped to watch the restart. He's got a good vantage point, actually.
Got a great vantage point for the restart here.
I'm sure he'd rather be in the car, not on the tire wall, but.
Second best seat now.
Second best seat.
We'll go with that, yeah.
Or if there's Hans walking back as well. They'll probably have a discussion and see if they can figure out exactly what happened there. But cars rolling back around again. Been under full course yellow since lap number 2 of this race. And expecting as soon as that car gets cleared, we should be good to go. Thankfully, no fluids or anything to deal with.
Yeah.
That's always a scary one for me, Greg, is when we have fluids to clean up and then the field restarts driving over speedy dry or something of the sort. That always makes me nervous. So at least if something's going to happen, it happens in the gravel track.
Exactly.
And by the way, the gravel did exactly what it's designed to do. We talked earlier about track limits. Places that have paved runoff, that's great, but grass, they could have slid all the way to the wall. So there's a little bit of grass, and then there's that gravel, which is basically, it's just what it sounds like. It's big chunks of gravel that slow the car down so that if you get off course, you don't end up in the fence. And it just arrests the momentum of the car, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do. There was those 3 drivers kind of talking about it there. So we'll see. They're figuring it out.
Well, and that's one of the things that I love about this series is Adam Jabay always says is go and talk to the other driver.
Yep.
Have that conversation because then you can kind of figure out what happened and resolve it, and we don't have to, management doesn't have to get involved. We respect that if you can work it out. Give it a go. It can't hurt, right? And if it doesn't work, well, then we'll adjust it accordingly. So I really like that aspect about it here. And they're just all over there chatting right now, figuring the numbers out. A couple of updates on some cars that people might have been following. Paul Curley, who's usually right up at the sharp end of things, since the the second race has had a consistent power steering issue, and they're not exactly sure what it is, and are trying to suss that one out. We talked about the speed of Swenson being able to stay. Well, he's on a new tire that he says really handles the heat and weight of that his heavier car generates smartly. So that's really a pleasure to see. The number 3, who is usually a guy that we tend to see right up near the front end of things, head gasket issue.
Yep, Eric Meadows. Yep.
So Eric Meadows is interesting. And then the other one that I just wanted to mention here, the guy that is driving that beautiful red Honda CRX out there, Christoph, they are looking, this will be his last race. He said, we're going to do an engine swap. I've been on the same engine for 4 years, never even had to take it apart, but it's tired. And they're going to do an engine swap and be back next year. And with the engine that they're looking to put in that car, I think that little CRX is going to be a little rocket.
I think it'll be a lot of fun to watch here. Hopefully, that safety truck has that 77 car up on it, so I'm hoping we get to go green this time through. And the safety car, we got cars or truck rolling now. So if the safety car lights are out, we will be returning to green flag racing. They might have him go one more time around, but let's see what route the pace car takes this time through. Up front, Matt Waldbaum from ASM in the number 90. Right behind him, Eric Catil in the number 82. Safety car will do one more time around the circuit at the very least. And again, we have at least 10 minutes still left on the schedule for the day, so let's use it, Greg.
I'm with you. I think this could still be an absolutely superb race. One other guy to update was Eric Jensen, and I was talking to him. We used to seeing him up in that top 5 area at least, and asked him, and he said, you know what? He said, it's probably on me. I'm not sure I've adjusted well to the non-slick tire. He said, I ran that. I like that on the car. These just feel a little bit different. And he said, I'm not sure that I'm extracting everything out of them yet. I will, but it's just not quite there for me. So,
all right, cars single file now, and that's the way they will stay. We do not do double file restarts here in GridLife Touring Cup. It's single file. Lapped cars at the back. And there are no lapped cars, thankfully. We were only on lap 2, so.
Yeah, so it should be pretty clear sailing up front here.
Lisa Keys in the background there in her second ever points event in GridLife Touring Cup. She's had a decent weekend. Her car had a suspension issue earlier in the day. She's gotten that sorted. There's Matan Rosenberg, by the way. Didn't see why he was so far in the back. He was supposed to be starting about 22nd, I think. He might have also come down pit lane. There was one car that peeled off into pit road, and I didn't see exactly why or who, but that might match the puzzle piece that I'm trying to put together here.
Yeah, he had a brilliant drive in that third race where he came with that hub failure from way, way deep in the field up into 22nd to get himself mid-pack in this issue. But you're right, they may have been working on some things and just not been able to get it done. And he is, as a result, starting at the back.
Well, lights were off on the safe. Well, they were. Now they're back on. They were off, and they don't have to turn off until later in the lap. So next time we come around here, if those lights shut off on the run up towards the carousel, that will signify to the drivers that they are good to go green. We actually had an incident at Dakota where the pace car lights were on and the pace car hit pit lane. In that instance, you're supposed to follow the pace car down pit lane, and the drivers that were following the pace car didn't do that and ended up on the racetrack where there was a big cleanup going on, and they had to drive around tow trucks and all sorts of things. It was a big mess. So that was something that was reiterated in the drivers' meeting. If the safety car lights are on, you follow it. Safety car lights are off, it's heading into pit lane.
Looks like those lights just went off.
Yes.
I'm loving it.
Restart time.
And this is where, from a driver's perspective, I think you're going, God, I hope they put the right amount of fuel in here.
Right. This is a little, you're right. That's actually a good point to bring up, because this is actually, we've been running now for about 20 minutes. This is longer time duration than we typically would see. So the other thing to be concerned about is weight. If you're on the limit and you're using fuel as ballast, which some drivers kind of put a little extra in for safety, you don't have that safety margin anymore. Time to go racing again, though, at Mid-Ohio. Race 4 for GridLife Touring Cup. Matt Waldbaum's out front, coming to the green flag this time through. And we're back underway, racing at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Swenson with a fantastic restart, heads up the inside, trying to get overlap on Catil. Defensive on Thorne through turn 1.
And it is Waldbaum, though, able to hang on. Catil glued to his rear deck. Looks to the outside, now to the inside. And it is side by each between Swenson and Thorne here. And now it looks like Swenson got him, but Thorne might be making a move. Catil looking to make a move as well.
He's got overlap. Catil side by side for the lead in his return to GLTC. He's been out since Road America. He wants back in, battling for the top spot at Mid-Ohio.
Now the drag race. We'll see what that machine of Catil has. Waldbaum, we know that's a very quick car. It's got a little bit of leg right now and shows it. Will Catil try and make a deep move down into 4? And if so, will Waldbaum ramp the outside? He used that very well to grab the initial lead.
I don't think it's got the legs for the straightaway, but it might have him in the corners here. Swenson right there as well. Thorne trying to battle the 30. That's a big distraction for Jeremy. He can't focus on the front 2, and he's got that big BMW lurking. And O'Gorman and Smedegard, they just battle. I think O'Gorman snuck by his teammate. He's up to 5th.
That was a great restart by Tomo, considering he was 8th when they took the green. So he timed that one to absolute perfection and has snuck indeed right in front of his team principal, if you will, in Andy Smedegard. And look at Swenson now, still working on Catil.
Catil under fire from Jeremy Swenson. These were the 2 championship leaders going into Road America last year. It was the purple car, the 30, that came out on top. Matt Waldbaum, though, watching in the mirrors, hoping that they do battle together. White flag.
White flag. And Waldbaum got the curb on the inside of the carousel clipped it pretty hard. It launched him a little sideways. It didn't hurt him. I thought it might give Coutil an opportunity up into turn 1. But Waldbaum, boy, I'll tell you, that thing is getting the power down exceptionally well, and off he goes.
Here comes Smedegaard on O'Gorman. He's got that extra rewards weight that's slowing him down a little bit. But for the lead, Waldbaum has the top spot by 3 car lengths. Coutil and Swenson are nose to tail. Then Thorne is right there as well as they come out of turn 2 and head down the backstretch for the final time.
And I'm looking to see if O'Gorman and Smedegaard is still side by side. Right here is where Swenson ought to really start to pick the pace up, see if he's got enough before they jump on the binders for 4. No, he does not have overlap. But here comes Thorne. He's going to try that outside line. You can make this work. He's got overlap, does he? He does. He's down to the inside.
Oh, slide around the outside of Swenson and gets the pass done into third. What a pass by Robert Thorne. That was a wild one. They head now into turn 6, 7, and 8 on the final lap.
And I think this scenario is going to pay huge dividends for Thorne, because he said the problem is the front end, the tires on the front end give up too soon. It's not there for the end of the race. It's been better. Well, this is an abbreviated race, and we're going to see if he's going to make some sort of a huge attack move here on Coutil. Getting a little bit late in the lap to do it.
Here we go. Checkered flag is waving from the flag stand. The final 2 corners. Look at O'Gorman to Swenson. He wants it, but Matt Waldbaum comes out of turn 13. For the first time ever, Matt Waldbaum is the victor in GridLife Touring Cup. He gets it done at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Celebrates by dropping those right sides in the grass. Coutil, in his first weekend back in GLTC, grabs the podium in second place. Thorne third. Swenson, O'Gorman, Smedegaard, Lichty, McGrew, Tab, and Manicherry, your top 10.
Waldbaum, a winner in GridLife Touring Cup. How cool is that?
His first season in competition, and his 20th race this time through, actually. 20th race, and he is a winner. Rest of the field comes on through, streaks on past the start-finish line, and we will celebrate another weekend of GridLife Touring Cup action from Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. What a battle. I know we didn't get to see as much as we wanted there, Greg, but no. Coutil couldn't hang on much longer. He was probably lucky to have such a short race, but man, a second place has got to feel real good regardless.
Absolutely, and again, remembering it is a brand new build, first time out, and he has been competitive. So that's what you want when you debut a car. He's used to running farther up. He'll get there. There's a lot, I'm sure, that they can still tweak and massage on that car.
Here's a look. Matt Waldbaum, your winner. The number 90 from Andy Smedegaard Motorsports. Matt Waldbaum, Eric Coutil, Robert Thorne with that last lap dive on Swenson pushes Swenson out of the podium. O'Gorman 9th to 5th. His progress was slowed again by that rewards weight. Eric Jensen 11th. How about that?
Nice.
Houghton up to 14th. Jensen another top 15. That was Scott Robertson, by the way. 16th place for the 213. Impressive run.
Really stellar run for him. Yeah, no question about that. And if you're wondering, folks, that picture of Matt Waldbaum, he is exactly as nice as that picture makes him look.
Certainly.
Great guy.
Rest of your order there.
Yep.
Paul Darling, 21st. Jeff Preston, Nick Starter, who had a tough start to the weekend, but battled back for a top 25 here. Brad Kosiba, 24th. And there's Matt Corns up to 31st. And we get down towards the bottom of the order again. Those 3 cars that were involved. Go ahead, Greg.
I was going to say, Paul Curley went from 46th to 33rd in a very short race. Impressive.
Great stuff. He'd had to do that a couple of times this weekend.
Yes.
So glad he got to pass some cars again. And here's the cars that had some trouble. Jake Jorenstad, Gary Wimble, and Hans Horpedal involved in a turn 1 incident. But all drivers talking about it and walked away. No big deal. Just a little bit of suspension components to replace. And I got to find out what happened there. But not what we wanted to see. A little bit of full course yellow action. But the rest of the racing this weekend, Greg, unbelievable action at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
Well, that's our only full course caution, folks. And again, we're talking 50 cars on essentially a 2.25 mile track. That was the only full course caution. Every start has been clean through the first lap, essentially. That speaks very highly to, 1, the driver talent in this field, and 2, to the respect they have for the other competitors on this track. GridLife needs to be very proud of what they have done with this Touring Cup this weekend.
It consistently impresses.
I think so.
Track battle time attack was also fantastic. Records fell in, I think, 6 of our 7 categories this weekend, and there's still more of that tomorrow. You can follow along on Race Hero.io. That's where all the timing and scoring is done here this weekend if you're following at home. But that's going to do it for our broadcast this weekend. But we have one in 2 weeks' time, not too far away, at Lime Rock Park in Lakeville, Connecticut, GRIDLIFE Circuit Legends Festival, a brand new event this season at a brand new racetrack for us, but a historic North American road course.
And the bull ring, road racing's bull ring is how they call it. 1.5 miles, wickedly quick, huge momentum track. It's going to be a heck of a show. It's killing me that I got to miss it, but I'll be watching. Trust me.
3 streams left on the year. It's going to be Circuit Legends Festival on August 19th to 20th. The next stream will be Alpine Horizon Festival. That will be September 9th through 11th. And then October 7th through 9th. That's our GRIDLIFE Finals at Heartland Park in Topeka, Kansas. So 3 streams left on the season, Greg. And we've just completed our 3rd. So we're basically halfway through. Even though we're getting towards the back end of the year, we still got half our broadcast left to go. Excited for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the racing that we've been seeing this year and seeing that the field stepping up, because coming into this race, O'Gorman had really been sort of ruling the roost for a couple of events. Not anymore. And this field is catching up, and it's going to, I think these last 3 races are going to be spectacular.
You can catch the sequel in just a couple of weeks. A couple thank yous, by the way. This weekend, a lot of effort put in by not only the corner workers and the GRIDLIFE staff and the volunteer staff for everybody here this weekend, but the live stream team. This was a phenomenal show this weekend across the entire weekend. Unbelievable job. Special thanks to Eric, who spent a lot of time editing those photos. We had photos from Midwest, but we redid all the GLTC photos for Race 4 and got to use them. It was awesome looking. So a huge thanks to Eric for getting that done for us. And a great thanks to Morgan, who was cutting everything together, and all the camera guys. Kevin on the drone flying around this weekend did a phenomenal job. But that's it, Greg. 2 weeks, we're back at it again. But it feels like a long way away, but it'll come quick.
It will come quick, and it'll be worth the wait.
It will be. Thanks so much again to everyone watching GRIDLIFE Live. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Let's give a thanks to the partners and people that make things happen, and we'll see you in Connecticut. Coverage of GRIDLIFE Mid-Summer Meet is brought to you by Momo, made in Italy since 1964. FCP Euro, every part you buy is guaranteed for life. eBay Motors, let's ride. And Falcon Tires. The Falcon Azenis RT660 is the official tire of Club TR.
At 303, we're always chasing perfection. Protect your ride with graphene nanospray coating. Now, boost protection, shine, and slickness with Graphene Detailer. Level up your detailing game. Harness the power of graphene with 303.
Ooh. Call Logano. Hey, Joey, you can save money if you fill up at Shell if you use Advanced Auto Parts Speed Perks.
Dude, I'm way ahead of you.
You saved at the pump?
Yeah, I saved at the pump.
The pump?
The pump.
He saved at the pump!
Woo! Now you can save at the pump when you shop at Advance Auto Parts. Learn more at advanceautoparts.com/gas rewards.
Now, it's my turn.
The more power you have, the more grip you have, the more you push the limits, the more stopping power you need. Get race-proven technology. Hawk Performance.
We still on this weekend for a little...
You know it. I'm in desperate need of some...
What about you, Jim?
No, my sister's getting... Yeah, dun, da, da. The wedding. She's getting married, so...
When adventure calls, make sure you're ready to answer. Stable 360 ethanol treatment is specifically formulated for year-round use, so your engines will be ready when you are. Ready, willing, stable.
We've been powering the American road since before it was paved. Our first breakthrough in motor oil was introducing it. And we've been reinventing it ever since. From the world's first high-mileage oil to the world's first synthetic blend. There are those who change with the times, and those who drive them. Valvoline, the original motor oil.